Whakalofato, good evening. Elliot Ikile here for the Friday session, for have a little chit chat. So I'm really happy that you've come on board. Thank you so much for coming on and having a bit of a listen in. Now, as I have given the hard word, but my kids might be prone to ignore me because they're running around having shower time. So I do apologise if there's a little bit of ambience. Also, g'day Cameron, g'day Mandy, g'day, well done. Thank you so much for coming. So we're here, we're going to have a very quick chat. Of course, I do apologise for being late. This is actually quite early for me. I'm usually do have a bit of an issue with timingless, and something which I've always had some fun with. I believe it could be blamed on colonialism, and therefore I have to be exempted. In fact, perhaps you should also give me some money in reparation for my lateness that is occurring from my colonialism. Just for the leftists out there, that was a bit of a joke. I do apologise if it wasn't that funny. So, also, I just want to say that really great to be cruising around and having chats to people. It's getting a little bit very cool in a weird way, because more and more people are coming up and they're wanting to engage in discussions, and they're saying that we're doing really great things, and that's just really great. I do love that sort of stuff. I want to give a shout out to Calvin Chiu, who I saw today as well. Calvin is a firearms person. He is a good guy, great commentary. He's on board. He's a Facebook friend, and I'm just really glad that I got to meet him today. So Calvin Chiu, bit of a shout out to you there, brother. Wonderful. And in fact, the first Malaysian word I ever learned was makan. And makan is probably one of my favorite words. It means eat. And so if you want to know a cool little Malaysian word to use, makan. All right. So just while we're waiting for more of our people to come on board, just wanted to give a bit of an overview of things that have been going on. This week has been, of course, very immense, and a lot of things going on, and it's really starting to hit the road and to become a lot more obvious as to what we have been saying over the last several years, especially since 2018. And that's a really powerful aspect. So yeah, I did want to also have a bit of a joint humorous aspect going on. A friend of mine sent through the 100 days. Of course, we've got 100 days before the election, and Labour has put out one of their big codes of 100 reasons why to vote for Labour. And I just, I have to say, I went through them and I go through each one of them, and I look at the merits of it, I look at the ideas of it and the accuracy of it. Now, apart from the inaccuracies of some of them, the vast majority, as I kept on going through them, reminded me of the snow machine that you can find on the mountains. When they don't have enough snow, they basically get a whole bunch of ice, they throw it into this ice machine, and it spews out just massive volumes of snow. And that's actually what the 100 reasons to vote Labour is. Effectively, taxpayers, you are throwing your dollars into the Labour machine, and they are just vomiting out cash all over the place. They are throwing cash at problems. And it's not their money, it's your money that they're throwing out there. It's also your money that's going to pay off the interest for the billions of debt that we are incurring. It's your money that they're using to pretend like they are the heroes of the game, when facts tend to show the opposite. One example I'll give is, of course, child poverty. Child poverty came out, and how does Labour do it? They throw money at the problem, so that saying that they pull children out of poverty, it's not quite. All they're doing is throwing benefits, extra benefits at the situation. That therefore puts people into a higher bracket, and suddenly you've pulled them out of poverty, which we know that's absolutely false. That is an inaccuracy. It doesn't work that way. And indeed, we also saw that the decision making was not that great. It was simply throwing your money at the problem without even bothering to do stuff. Because of course, what that does is that removes the chance for resilience, for resourcefulness, for being able to be creative and to engage in life and to grab stuff. And it actually increases dependency, because it's just like the drug dealer at school. Gives you a little bit of just cabbage weed, and then builds you up, gives you a bit more, until you are just craving for the higher level THC areas and to move on. So, right. So I'm just going to be looking at comments as I go because I've got some stuff that I want to say, but I also want to make sure that I'm engaging at the same time. Right. Hi, Daniel. Oh, that's from Palataho Cannon. Oh, very good. Very good. Excellent. So we saw the 100 days. We saw that the fact that actually there's been money being thrown at problems, which of course is just going to cause a great deal of issues and problems for us in the future. It will increase welfare dependency, as we have seen. It will actually lower resilience, as we have seen. And indeed, we've even seen further increases of suicidality and suicide action from the policies and procedures of this government. So they're wasting our money trying to fix the problems they are creating. Absolutely right, Kevin. Right on the money. You are absolutely right. So, yeah, we wanted to also say that one of the biggest aspects that we've got now, the biggest problem that we have, is the idea of COVID, or rather the Labour, New Zealand First, Green policies that actually broke our economic back. And we have yet to see the great ramifications of that and the utter pain that we're already starting to see. I bumped into a couple of my family members a few days ago. Both of them were made redundant. And they are good, strong-working, hard-working people. And it is the policies from this government that has led to an absolute disaster of an economic area. Absolute disaster. Now, what we've got is we're actually even going to be worse off, according to various reports, in terms of the OECD. We're something like about 1%, going to be hit about 1% harder than OECD countries. Now, this means that we are going to find ourselves in a lot of trouble. We are already laying off people left, right, and centre. We're already seeing people lining up at the dole queues areas, and this is going to get worse. It will not actually get better, it will get worse. As you know, the whole hashtag Go Hard, Go Early was nonsensical. It was we who were able to first, on 25th of January, call out the government for going lazy. We were the ones who say, close the borders to the high-risk areas, get your screening properly sorted. You are not even having diagnostic testing kits here. You're sending them off to Melbourne. That wasn't Labour calling out for those things. That was us. And so they're very much, I'm sorry to say this, deception. This deceptive marketing around this has now led to their lockdown procedures and policies that has been brutal and cruel to our people. And we're going to see more. And the audacity that Miss Ardern had when the warehouse was laying off jobs, for her to sit there and get angry was just, I thought it was the height of arrogance, actually. Not narcissism, not there yet, but I think definitely quite arrogant in terms of that, or an utter lack of self-awareness. So we've got some issues going on there. For New Conservative, we also do have a part there where we do look at the specific recovery needed for COVID. That is in our policies, in our economic policy, is the umbrella. And that does include everything from the taxation that will allow for a $10 billion stimulus idea for people to engage in the economy first. Also, we would be very much about cutting red tape, getting more deregulated. And also, not only that, we will also look at actually freezing minimum wage. This, I'm sorry, idiotic idea that somehow keeping on pumping up minimum wage is good for people is not accurate. It's not accurate, because you lose jobs. If you've got, don't forget, far beyond 90% of the businesses that we have in New Zealand are not big businesses. They're small and medium businesses. And when you're pumping up minimum wage, when the government is forcing minimum wage to increase, that might feel good in the very, very short term, until you realize that that employer who employed 3 people can now only employ 2 people. That employer who could employ 50 full-timers, suddenly they're going to have something like 20 full-timers, 20 part-timers, and maybe 20, 30 casuals. That's a situation that we're looking at. And we've got a government here who are so virtue signaling to say, no, keep pumping up minimum wage. Hey, living wage, living wage, living wage. Well, who pays for that? Because those who are making the rules don't pay for it. Have you noticed that? They don't pay for it. Now, our economic policy is a powerful one. One of the great things that we've got is being a true grassroots party, being a true frontliner party New Conservative candidates, we are over 80%. Over 80% of our people are small and medium business owners now, currently. I dare any other party to show that type of frontline, grassroots understanding, experience, awareness. I dare anyone else. So that's where we are. We come from the front line. So let's see. Hi, can you please make me a pepperoni pizza? I can actually. I tell you what, I can make a pepperoni pizza. Not only that, I just want to say, what's wrong with anchovies? Anchovies are awesome. All right, anchovies are awesome. I will admit, I am very much opposed to putting pineapple on pizza, but my daughter loves it. I do not. I think it's nearly sacrilegious. So, just to say in there, what is your favorite NC policy? Ooh, good one. What is my favorite one? I think my favorite one would be the BCIR. The BCIR. The BCIR is the Binding Citizens Initiated Referendum. Binding Citizens Initiated Referendum works in this way, and it is my favorite one. It goes like this. At the moment, the government has ignored every single citizens-initiated referendum. That means that good men and women have gotten together, they've gotten over 150,000 signatures onto a petition that has forced the government to have a referendum where the entire country can vote on a topic. And for example, the anti-smacking referendum, the anti-smacking bill. Anti-smacking bill came in. Almost every single New Zealander was totally against it. They said it was idiotic. The state is taking our power away. The state is deciding that they're the parent. They know what is better for our children than we do. So good men and women got together. They made the referendum and they forced the government to have a referendum. And of course, even though over 90% of the people, around 90% of the people voted no, that it was stupid to get rid of it, the government utterly ignored it. They absolutely ignored it. You want to know which referendums the government allowed you to have a say on, of course, is pretty much, you want to change the flag, you want to smoke weed. And of course now, do you want to commit suicide by doctor? That's generally the referendums that you're allowed. So when it comes to really powerful areas, abortion coming along, the pushing of economics, the free trade agreements, things that actually we do have a say and we've got an absolute investment in, why don't we get a say on those things? We don't. And when we do, we get ignored utterly. Absolutely ignored. So the BCIR basically means this. If you get there and you get 5% of the previous voting population, so you're looking at 135,000 signatures on a piece of paper, you will force a referendum that is binding. That means that the government has no say in it. And even if they hate it, then they will actually have to pass whatever it is. I love that. I love that. I think that's returning democracy to the people. As you know, currently we have a benevolent dictatorship, which is, of course, meaning that you've only got once every 3 years to choose. Once every 3 years to choose. And that's not acceptable, especially in an environment which is so important to actually deal with things right now. I will also say this. You've heard me say this before, and I'll keep on saying it. This election, this year, is more important than every other election in the history of New Zealand. This election is the most important. Forget every other election. Forget areas Kirk and Muldoon, Palmer and Holyoake. All of those are not as important as now. This year's election is vital. And I say that because we are at the very risk of losing our entire culture. And I say that with confidence now that it's not going to be looked upon with suspicion, because I could see this happening. We could see this happening a few years ago, and arguably a few years before that. But only is it now that you've actually got policies that you're able to look at and see that there is a trajectory that is occurring. Free speech across the Western world has been shaken and taken away. The ideas of gender ideology, the fact that a boy can choose to be a girl and a girl can choose a boy, and the parents have no right. We are watching policies that are at the very basics of deconstructing the family unit in the Western world. That's happening now. It's already happened in several countries already. We are just at the end of that line. This year, we've got to take it back. This is it. There is no reserves. There is no worries. Let's give it a go and we'll see what happens next time. Because of the policies that are being passed under urgency, that are being passed by little politispeak, that are being passed with an adherence to a foreign corporation, the importance of this election is just beyond any other type that we've ever seen before. This is it. This is where you've got to give it all guns blazing and just go hard for those areas. So, how are you assessing if you can meet the 5% threshold? Oh, good question. So, as you know, one of my big frustrations is that the two TV polls just don't seem to show us. That's okay. It's just my own little personal frustration. Like I've said, if I had here, I'd be ripping it out already because it's like, ugh. The reason why I am so confident is because every single week we're in the top 3 of every single political party in the nation. We are in the top 3 for engagements. National, Labour, New Conservative. Those 3 every single week. No one else comes close. And that's for us. You know, we are the silent majority and we've got an over 92% of positive engagement. That's how big that is. We also have extra subscribers, and paid up memberships increasing literally every single day. Literally every single day. And they get processed every single weekday because that's how our office operates. And not only that, we just, every time we end up at meetings, almost all of our meetings get flooded. The wealth of people knowing what's happening, who, even those who don't quite understand what's happening, but they know they've lost elements of things that they could do before. They've lost elements of being able to trust that the government is, you know, you can always complain about the government, but suddenly we feel a bit afraid. Those elements are coming out more and more stronger. Let me also put out something else that was an observation by someone who I trust a great deal. And she has a very good area into the party. And I checked it up afterwards and she was correct. There is a strong base of immigrants in New Conservative. On our New Conservative database, we've got a strong base of immigrants. Now, I've been going around talking because this made me very curious. And what I've discovered is that a lot of these guys and girls, that in actual fact, they are getting more and more anxious and afraid because what they have seen in the nations that they've come from is being brought in here. They recognize what the government and the political environment is starting to feel like here, and how it's feeling like here is where they left. Now, they've not used the word fled, but they've used every word but fled. And that's why I think that more and more of those of our base of immigrants who have come over have actually been more vocal to us about that. They are more and more afraid that what they have come from is being brought here. And again, it just really, strengthens and reinforces that as well. Gabriel, oh, yep. Kamusta, Gabriel. Yep, good to see you there. Very good, very good. You have my vote, my friend. Thank you, Max. Very awesome, very awesome. You will never waste your vote if you vote for someone you believe in. Oh, awesome. Absolutely right. That's great. Very cool, very cool. Mate, I was joking about the pizza. I got the munchies. Oh, well, actually, you know what? Let's talk about weed then. All right, because I know a couple of people say, one of the big things that people say is, hey, New Conservative, what's wrong with smoking weed? All right, so we saw that the taxpayer funded, or that I believe they've got about 85% taxpayer funding, is the Drug Foundation. They of course have started up their Say Yes campaign. Of course, I believe it's around 85% taxpayer funding that they get, and they've put them out there. And I found it hilarious because when I matched it up, you had the Say Yes campaign, who was, I think, about 8 people who were in different fields, and their fields weren't too much frontline. Don't get me wrong, there's a couple of the guys there who engaged in the front line, but they were quite frontline. And then you had the Say No to Dope campaign. And they've got over 30 hardcore frontline community workers, people of every association, from the Muslim association to youth workers to people who've dealt with the most horrific areas that you can think of. And they are saying no, and the say yes people are saying yes. And the say yes people are about 85% taxpayer funded, and the say no people, they got no funding. It's men and women and families who are funding them. All right, so first off, even from the very get-go, you've got a massive weight on that. All right, now, here's the thing. We're not talking about smoking weed with your boys around in a circle at the back of a party. You bring in weed like that law is, that won't be what brings in. They are looking at THC. That's how it is. They will make it potent. You will have a joint that is not really a joint, but is something up to 15 times the strength of one joint. It is utterly damaging. It is incredibly dangerous stuff. The US Surgeon General has even now put warning labels on their legal cannabis areas, because they've said that, yes, by the way, this product may cause psychosis. Psychosis. Because, again, and I keep trying to make this real clear, we're not talking about weed, actually. You're not even really talking about cannabis. You're talking about THC. THC, the thing that makes you high. Because what happens, the commercial guys will come in, as they have come in overseas, and they make it more potent. So your 2 to 4% THC component will burst up to around 30% for the smoke, and goes up to 99% for orals and for edibles like the gummy bears and the lollies and the candy corn and those areas there. So we're not talking about weed, and that's perhaps part of the problem, is that their deceptive ideas of putting stuff out there is going to cause more pain, more misery, and the cost to it is going to be immensely high, far higher than what a few rich people will get for being drug dealers. So, Elliot, why are they promoting smoking weed and medicinal cannabis in the same referendum? I'm not against medicinal cannabis because there's no THC. Yeah, no party is against the CBD aspect or the medicinal part of cannabis. No party is. This is only a smokescreen in order to push through the legalized THC so that they can make mega bucks off the misery and the backs of us. And like I've said before, the one silver lining is that you will need to fund the industry that I come from, youth work. You'll just need to fund it heavily, because you're going to see brutality, death, and so much crime it's not even funny. Just like they've seen overseas. How do you feel about the government promoting Muslims and the Islam belief system? I think that the government's actually been quite despicable to the Christian community in New Zealand. And then we can see that, of course, with the disrespectful removal of Jesus, the fact that Jacinda Ardern had no Easter message beyond saying that the Tooth Fairy and the Easter Bunny were essential service workers, and that was pretty much it. There was nothing else. And yet at the same time actually stood up there and was deeply, deeply somber and respectful when it came to Ramadan. Now, it's fine to be respectful for Ramadan, that's fine. But there's out of Ramadan and Easter, only one of those holidays is a commemoration to the New Zealand culture, that it gets a day off and a mandatory day off for everyone who's working. Only one of those days gets that. The Labour government, I'm going to put it out like this. If you're a Christian, and I can't believe I'm going to say this because there's been other elements coming along there. If you're a Christian, actually, you should not really be voting for Labour. Now, I say that because for one, I am a political party. I represent a political party. Therefore, we want your vote to come to us. But the other part of it as well is that you've got a party who, by their value systems and the policies that they've pushed, are actually very much anti-Christian values. So, the most extreme abortion bill, up until birth, you can kill off a baby then. In fact, now there's a grey area now that if a baby is born alive due to an abortion attempt, that child may not be given medical treatment, and that's now in conflict with the born alive rule. And you've also got the fact that even if a baby is required to be aborted, but it's so far along that you need to break off their legs and their arms, which is a dismemberment section, they won't even give painkillers to that baby. And you know why, of course, because if you give painkillers to a baby who's been literally ripped apart because it's a late-term abortion, then that basically means that you're also saying that that's a baby, that that's a human life, and you can't have that. So it's better for those babies to be brutally hammered and dismembered rather than treat them as a human. That's Labour. And for that matter, that was also the Greens, of course, very heavily in ACT, and even nearly half of National actually voted for that as well, which I shake my head at. Human life is a human life. One of the big things about conservatism is that it holds that all life is precious and important, that we are all vital and important to the society that we live. That's why all of our policies, whether it's economics, whether it's environment, whether it's the family-based or the justice system, all of it's based on the premise that human life is important. This government doesn't think so. They really don't. And it's something which you are going to have to face when you step into that box, into that booth. What are the values that you will vote for? What are the values that you will place your faith in? And if this is the trajectory, if the trajectory that we have politically speaking is one of death, making money off misery, the very idea of suicide by doctor, just not caring, hopelessness, the idea of indebting yourselves so that wealth and dependency becomes a way in which you can make yourselves in power, that's the trajectory now. After the election, if they win, I've said this many times, this is it. We don't get another shot at this one. This is it. And that's why I do keep on saying, spread the word. This is not the time for playing games or anything. And I am sorry because I've got people I have love for and affection for in the National Party, but the National Party as well. Even the people who I have love for and affection for in the National Party are overpowered. They are outnumbered by those who are in the National Party, who are full on hardcore pro-death, who are hardcore for globalism at a point where it even dissolves our own sovereignty. Those who even support the idea of free speech being removed. I'm afraid that the two parties just don't cut it. National are less bad than Labour. And I say that because we align mostly with National. But I just don't know what's happened to them. Since Mr. Muller has taken over, of course, you've got a situation now where they've shunted off to the left. Zero carbon bill. You've got people around you who were gunning hard for the most extreme abortion bill. The supporting of weed, or of the legalization of THC. And this is some of the really difficult areas that we can see. So there's some areas there I think that need to be addressed really strongly, and we're hoping that this year that there'll be some powerful debates. Get involved. This is not the time to be on the sideline. This is not the time to even think that the choices of your parents are going to help out. I'm afraid all bets are off. And I can keep on going on and on about that, but I won't do much. Right. That's freaky stuff, eh? Yep, very freaky stuff. Believe me, when I first started into the politics game, it was actually due to us losing youth and being able to try to fight to bring youth back. As I scratched the surface more and more and uncovered the ideas around carbon credits and the UN adherence levels, and the fact that in policies we're now we've gone away from what we used to say, and now we just adhere to UN Charter ... whatever it is. The more you scratch the surface, the more scarier stuff is. But that's also the great opportunity that we have. We're here, and I don't say that arrogantly. We're here. We've got you. Right? We will fight to the bone, and not only that, the power of the silent majority has been rising up. Our candidates who are out there, they're not paper candidates. People will have paper candidates, that's fine. We don't have paper candidates. Our candidates are lock, stock, and smoking. They are rolling hard. You go research them. They are powerful people. Every one of them is in the field. They have earned by right and by pain and struggle from decades in the front line their name and their integrity. That's what's so great about things going really well. Right. Yep, well on the way to losing sovereignty if we don't act now. Absolutely right. I also want to bring up what's been going on as well. Thank you for that, Carol. Is the now, of course, from the Black Lives Matter, who actually don't care about Black lives, the positions where they're really fighting and pushing statues to be ripped down and to be taken down because of some sort of historical aspect that's going on. First and foremost, part of my whakapapa contains ancestors who actually fought for Te Rauparaha. Te Rauparaha was known as quite a brutal guy, and this is, looking at it in context, it was just how things were done with, but he was quite brutal. He managed to get hold of muskets, he managed to kill off quite a lot of people, grab a whole bunch of land, get a whole bunch of slaves. I do not think that the spire that has also his bust, his head statue, I do not think that it should be cut down and brought down. I also don't think that these other statues should be brought down. This is history. This is our history. You and I, each of us have a history. Now, I've got a couple of scars on my body. Now, if I could remove those scars, I would choose not to remove those scars. They remind me, and they are a good reminder of times in my life which were a struggle. And if we sit around somehow breaking these statues and then putting them into some warehouse and saying, oh, well, that's safe because it's a museum and we can look at it and things like that, that is just wrong. That is, I look at that, and the analogy I'll use is that's like basically having a family member rape another family member, and then everyone just having a bit of a, just be quiet, don't talk about it, just put it in the corner, and let's just, every time that there's a party or something like that, this one stays over there and this one stays over there. How's that? Yeah, good? Not good. It is, not only is it stupid, it is also actually endemic of the attempt to culturally remove the culture of New Zealand out and to remove a new type of culture in. Now, I will push this as well. Do not forget that we have right now, and it's building stronger and stronger and stronger, and we have been warning about this for years, the fact that there are groups of academics and politicians who are pushing for New Zealand to be split into two. Now, they use the word partnership, and they are wrong. They are absolutely wrong. I was talking with a friend today, and she was saying the same thing. They use the word partnership without talking about te tiriti o Waitangi, and they are wrong, because what they want is not partnership aspects. They want co-governance. They want to split New Zealand in half. Of course, you are still going to have to pay for the whole thing, which means you're going to have to pay double over. But that's what they're looking for. They are looking for splitting New Zealand in half, to have one side governed by one type of person and the other side governed by another type of person. It's just wrong. It is not New Zealand. It is not equality. It is the opposite of equality. It is not what the Treaty of Waitangi was written for. It is against. It burns the Treaty of Waitangi. The Treaty of Waitangi was very clear. Article 3. That all the peoples of New Zealand would have the same rights and privileges as the British Empire. Those are the British Empire. It is a powerful document. It is a wonderful joining document. It is a document of he iwi tahi tātou. One people moving forward together. And now you've got politicians who use skin colour, and you've got academics who are sitting there using skin colour so that they can maintain their own power, their own money, and engage in their force feeding of co-governance. Because you know that they won't rip down Te Rauparaha, the statue there. And that is where you've got that smack of hypocrisy. It is a ruthless, disgusting, democratic offence that they are doing right now. And I can't release too many things at the moment, but I've been hearing that there have been several government departments that are already getting set up for it now. Not after the election, now. This is where we're at, and you'll be paying for it. I will also release some links that I put in, especially from Turiki, which was when I went through Turiki, and I also showed that one of the biggest parts of Turiki, which was a report written for Andrew Little, is indeed the idea that justice will be cut and split in half. One half will be New Zealand, and the other half will be Māori. It will basically rip apart and it spits on the Treaty of Waitangi, what it's about. So, let's see, what do we got there? Oh, troll alert! Yeah, that's fine, as long as they're not doing too much trolling. I'm more than fine with it. Like I said, I love sort of trolls. I'm really looking forward to, in 2 weeks, 2 weeks today. No, not 2 weeks today, sorry. 2 weeks next Monday. So 2 weeks next Monday, I will of course be debating Professor Paul Spoonley. And it's a great honour. I'm really honoured and humbled to actually be a part of that debate. As you know, Professor Paul Spoonley has spent a lot of his life in academia. I have spent most of my life not in academia. I've spent it basically walking the streets and just really helping out where I can do. But I'm really happy to go there and have a debate, because I believe the moot is that hate speech must be made illegal. And that's the discussion that we'll be having. So I can't wait to have a discussion on it, and it should be really good. And I do apologise. Last week I said it was Massey University. I'm totally wrong. It's Victoria University in Wellington, not Massey University. So I do apologise for that angle. All right, so we need to unplug them from the MSM. Absolutely right. It's quite interesting. David Farrar came out with a poll done in terms of media and their bias, their perception of their bias. Now, I can't remember exactly, but I believe there was about a dozen. There was about 12 or 13 different mainstream medias, and they were all on the spectrum of left or right. And of course, there were two media outlets who were on the center right. The rest of them were all on center left to pretty far left. In fact, if you want the hilarious one, I found this hilarious. RNZ, the 100% taxpayer-funded, state-funded broadcaster, was one of the furthest to the left. So, go figure. Will it be live streamed? I'm not sure. I hope so. I think it will. I assume it would be, because I'm sure that a lot of the young leftist students would like to be there and see this guy, this upstart, get owned on TV or something like that. So we'll see what it is. I've heard from some of our conservative students that they'll be there in sport. Nice one. Awesome. So I really can't wait. That's great. Party politics aside, you're one of the best leaders I've seen. Oh, well, thank you. All I want to do really is help our people and, get the strong ones to come up behind me and to go hard. And being an old guy, it helps that I can just go forward, take the first hits, so that those stronger, young, conservative, hardcore people can come through and just gun it hard. So that's really, really awesome. LOL. Haven't seen LOL for quite a while. That's pretty cool. If you really want to know, I started flossing. I've learned how to floss, and immediately my daughter said, "Oh, Dad, that's gone burgers, mate. That's out of it. No, they don't do flossing anymore." So I was pretty unhappy about that. RNZ corrupt, definitely to the left. Thank you. That's absolutely fine. So we are finding that the co-governance structures are growing more and more. As you've heard me say quite a lot, Tupuna Maunga Authority is probably the one that I really have had a lot of experience with, and I really can't stand. They're also smearing, or elements of them are smearing also the people from Save Our Maunga, and they're good people. They're very green, very greeny. But they're proper greenies, if you know what I mean. Not this new greenie who's actually more about welfare dependency and just wanting just boys, girls, boys, gender ideology and all that sort of stuff. But they're actually proper greenies. Whales, dolphins, and rivers and streams and birds. And I really enjoy talking to them because they've got integrity to their cause. But they've been smeared as, oh, you're white people. And I found it just despicable how they've been treated, especially by the Tupuna Maunga Authority. It's something which we've seen quite a lot. So, let's have a look here. Ooh, okay, so we've got a couple more minutes left. Maybe I can grab a couple more questions. We have the Project for the Cultural Revolution. I can't say that program. Yes, the Project. Oh, woo, the Project. The Project seems to mix up entertainment and basically just your average leftism, where they haven't really looked at things with a scientific regard. They don't really deal with that. They more like to make jokes, but odd, weird jokes that mock anyone who doesn't agree with them. So it's a very odd type of thing in that regard. You would make a great Prime Minister. Oh, well, not sure. I'll be playing video games a lot, so we would have to see that there. Do you think that the Auckland City Council needs their... Oh, I'm sorry, Carol, I missed that one. People are asking about your view on Hobson's Pledge. Hobson's Pledge, right. Hobson's Pledge is a group who have a website and are very strong about equality. They're very strong about that sort of angle. I also was part of those who I was very honoured and proud to stand by and tautoko and be the kai korero for Don Brash when he went to Waitangi, not last year, the year before, I think it was, 2018, I think. So I was really honoured. First time I met Don Brash was actually in the middle of the hood, and so I met him in Manurewa, and I actually, to be honest, I do apologise, I actually didn't really know who he was. I knew I'd seen him somewhere before, so I got to talking about him, and he was asking me about the kids at the school I worked for, and it was really awesome. And so I was telling him, I was pretty excited, and I was just telling a few of the overall cases that I dealt with and things like that. He didn't say who he was or anything like that. He went away later on, and then I heard he was Don Brash. Fast forward a few more months, and I had done a little bit of research on him, because I heard that, all I heard was that, oh, he's a racist guy who spoke a racist speech at Orewa, or Orewa, I think it is. So anyway, I had a look at that speech, and I'll be honest, it wasn't the most exciting speech that I've heard, but it was very informative, but it just wasn't that exciting, but it was very informative. I read it 3 times just to make sure I didn't get anything wrong, and the amount of racism I found was 0. I found 0 racism in there. And I know I've experienced racism before. I've been racially attacked before. It's something, and it's pretty obvious. Racism's reasonably, there's a leaning towards subjectivity, but it's reasonably objective. Don Brash is not actually racist, and so I had a look at his website as well. I look at heaps of websites. In fact, I've just finished looking at Black Lives Matter website through and through. So I looked through the Hobbes' Pledge, and yeah, they are about equality. Now, some of their supporters, sure, they could, I think some of the supporters could, hey, calm down, calm down. So yeah, I like them. I think they're pretty cool. I don't see, I think some of their supporters are, I think some of their supporters are actually racist, but I think that's very far and few between. The people themselves, I haven't seen anything on that website, and I've constantly gone back and said, oh yeah, find me where it's racist. Don't worry about what you're hearing in your ears. Oh, they're racist. Just tell me about it. So, Hobbes' Pledge, yeah, I like them. They seem pretty cool. Some of their supporters need a bit of a jandle, but that's, you know, everyone's supporters, whether it's Labour, National, whether it's the legalised cannabis party, whether it's New Conservative, you know, there's going to be some people in every single party who probably need to ease down themselves. It's just a human issue, and you and I also have those issues as well. You know, we've got those issues about where we'll treat things negatively or anything like that. So, all right, let's have a look. What do you think about the archaeological site in the Waipoua forest that is considered so sensitive it has been sealed or restricted until 2063? Sorry, Diane, I'm not sure about that particular site. But now you've got my curiosity up. I'll probably have a little look at those things when I can do. All right, I might go for one more question. Let's see. Why are we being kept off TV? Why are we being kept off TV? One of the biggest areas is that we are a particular group who are very much focused on people. Now, I say that carefully, but I also say it, we don't care about, we can't be bought, I suppose, is the best way. New Zealand First can be bought, for example. You know, it's very clear. You know, they went in and then they came out with a PGF fund and a beautiful foreign minister bauble and those elements. We, however, can't be bought in such a way. We don't roll that way. We're only about the people, and that comes into a bit of a problem when you think about, and I'll use the analogy of Donald Trump. Donald Trump is brusque, and he has personality issues, and he says things in sometimes a way that I'm like, dude, no, don't say that. But he is also in the way of those who want to change over the culture, those who are attempting to bring down the very ideas of democracy in the US, those who are attempting to make the US basically just another global trading partner without sovereignty. So he's in the way of that, and that is actually, in a way, our issue as well, is that we don't actually have the, in a sense, ability to be bribed, because we come straight from the field. None of us are career politicians. We don't, to a degree, we don't even care about politics as a way of making money or power. We're only here because we want our people to be kept safe and to be kept sovereign, because we love our nation, we love our families. We want all of that. We want the sovereignty to remain, we want our families to remain, and we want our ability to hold on to our destiny and our future to be in our hands. That's a problem for those who are not paid by those who don't like that. So I believe that there's quite a strong area of issue in that, and that's also why. But that's also why Facebook, for example, gives us a great power in that, is that we are massive online. We're just massive, and that's on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and coming up soon, TikTok. So we'll see how all of that goes. All right, so let's have a look here. Go NC. Our nation needs turning around. Absolutely right, Diane. Thank you so much. We'll just look forward to maybe a couple more comments. But look, in the meantime, thank you so much. Pray for your amazing party. Thank you, Michelle. Alston says, what's your opinion on Putin, Russia, or no opinion? I have an opinion, but we do not have an opinion at this stage. How's that? Boom. There's a political answer for you. So we've got lots more to talk about, lots more to push. Later we'll be on tomorrow night. Hit them hard with your questions. It's all good. I really encourage you, please check out the COVID recovery on our economic policy. That economic policy, we did not muck around with. That has been built with some of the best minds that we've got. And so it's a real powerful one. Have a look at the COVID recovery policy. Hit us up with our questions. We thank you so much for being on a part of this journey for us. We thank you so much also to those supporters who are giving just little bits of their money every single week. You have no idea that it is such a wonderful thing to see more and more of that coming on board. Not because of the blingy bling, but because that's where our love and that's where our energy goes into. It's one thing to be able to like a page. It's another thing to actually say, right, I'm going to write a check and chuck it in every little bit. So I want to thank you for that. I really want to thank the supporters and the volunteers. I thank you so much, the volunteers who've been out delivering news pamphlets and putting up signs and the boards. You're doing it on your own back and in your own time. I thank you so much. We thank you so much. And I believe that this nation will thank you so much for that. We thank you for everyone who has been commenting, discussing with their friends and their family. You guys are just absolutely awesome. I'm so excited to be in politics at this time. This is an amazing time. Now, if we lose, woo, not cool. But this is the election. This is the year that is going to be talked about in history books in the future. This one, this year, this time in our history right now, it is being written right now, and you're a part of it. So God bless you. God bless your family. And God bless this great nation of New Zealand.